Move, you're in my way, mopping like a stray dog, marking territory.
A black woman on her knees, a CEO towering over her in his own lobby. She didn't move.
I'll be done in a minute, sir.
His jaw tightened.
Did you just talk back to me?
He stepped closer. 3 executives behind him went dead quiet.
You animals never learn your place, do you?
He lifted his coffee and poured it right onto her arm.
Oh! Now get on your knees and clean that up. That's what you're here for.
Didn't cry. She looked at the coffee dripping down her forearm, then looked at him, straight in the eyes. What this CEO didn't know, that 1 cup of coffee just cost this man $200 million, his career, his reputation, and every ounce of power he thought made him untouchable. 3 days earlier, downtown Atlanta, 42nd floor. Amara Walker sat behind a glass desk the size of a dining table. Morning sunlight cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows and warmed the left side of her face. Below her, the city moved in silence. Tiny cars, tiny people, a world she'd clawed her way above. She was reading. A 2-inch thick file sat open in front of her. Ridgemont Properties, Charlotte, North Carolina. Commercial real estate. A mixed-use development in the South End district that was bleeding money. They needed $200 million to survive, and they'd come knocking on her door. Amara Walker was the founder and managing partner of Crestline Capital Group, private equity. Her firm didn't just write checks, they bought futures. And at $380 million in personal net worth, Amara could afford to be picky about whose future she bought. But the numbers never told the whole story. They never did. She closed the file and leaned back. Her eyes drifted to a framed photograph on the corner of her desk. A woman in a blue cleaning uniform standing in front of a row of mops. Younger face, tired eyes, proud smile. Her mother. Amara was 14 the first time she held a mop for money. Baltimore, a law firm downtown. She and her mother cleaned that building every night from 10 to 2 in the morning. The marble floors were cold under her sneakers. The bleach made her eyes water. But her mother never complained. Not once. One night, a partner in a gray suit walked past them. He was on his phone. He finished his coffee, looked at the trash can 6 feet away, and dropped the empty cup on the floor Amara's mother had just mopped. Didn't break his stride. Didn't look down. Her mother picked it up without a word. Amara never forgot that. Not the cup. Not the sound it made hitting wet marble. Not the look on her mother's face. The look of someone who had trained herself not to feel it anymore. That memory built a ritual. Before every major investment, Amara went undercover. She put on a uniform. She grabbed a mop. And she walked into the company she was about to fund. Not as a managing partner, but as the person they thought didn't matter. She picked up her phone and dialed Simone Reed, her chief of staff. I need you to set something up. Ridgemont Properties, Charlotte. I want 1 night with their cleaning crew. Simone didn't miss a beat. You're about to wire $200 million, and you want to go mop floors? I want to see what $200 million is going to be run by. Silence on the line, then a sigh. I'll make the call. 600 miles northeast in a glass-walled boardroom in Charlotte, a very different conversation was happening. Craig Lawson stood at the head of the table. Tailored navy suit, silver cufflinks, a smile that looked borrowed from a campaign poster. Behind him, a projector displayed the Crestline Capital logo and the number $200 million in bold green font. The money's practically in the account, Craig told his board. Crestline's legal team is finalizing. We close Friday. Neil Ashford, the board chairman, nodded from the far end. 60 years old, silver hair, reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd seen deals fall apart before. Let's not celebrate until the wire clears. Craig waved him off. Neil, relax. This is institutional money. They don't walk away. The door opened. A janitor stepped in with a trash bag. Young guy, quiet, just doing his job. Craig didn't turn around. He just raised one hand and flicked his fingers toward the door. Not now. Come back when we're gone. The janitor backed out without a word. Nobody at the table reacted. Not Neil, not Trent Holloway, the CFO. Nobody. Because in this building, That was normal. 3 days later, Simone called back. Everything was arranged. A woman named Denise Harmon, night shift cleaning supervisor at Ridgemont, 11 years on the job, had agreed to let Amara shadow her crew for one evening. No questions, no paperwork, just a uniform and a name tag that read, Angela. Denise had her own reasons for saying yes. 11 years of watching Craig Lawson treat her people like furniture. 11 years of silence. She was done being quiet. Wednesday evening, 7:32 p.m., Charlotte, North Carolina. Amara stepped out of a rented Honda Civic in the parking garage beneath Ridgemont Properties headquarters. No jewelry, no makeup, hair pulled back under a plain black headband. She wore a gray cleaning uniform 2 sizes too big, standard-issue rubber-soled shoes, and a name tag clipped to her chest pocket. Angela. She looked like every cleaning woman in every office building in America. And that was the point. Denise Harmon met her at the service entrance. 55 years old, short, built solid, a face that had seen enough to fill 10 lifetimes but still carried a quiet kind of grace. She looked Amara up and down. "You sure about this?" "I'm sure." Denise handed her a mop and a bucket. "Stay close to me. Don't talk to management unless they talk to you first. And if Craig Lawson shows up, keep your head down." "Does he come by often at night?" Denise's mouth went tight. Often enough. The cleaning crew that night was 4 people. Amara, Denise, a younger woman named Rosa, and Gerald, a 61-year-old black man who'd been pushing a vacuum through these halls for 9 years. He had a bad knee, a quiet voice, and the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. They started on the 6th floor and worked their way up. Amara mopped hallways. She wiped down conference tables still covered in coffee rings and crumbs from meetings she would have been invited to in her real life. She emptied trash cans full of takeout containers and energy drink cans. And she watched. The break room for the cleaning staff was a converted storage closet on the basement level. 1 folding table, 3 mismatched chairs, a microwave with a cracked door that didn't heat evenly, no vending machine, no water cooler. The overhead light buzzed and flickered every few seconds like it was dying a slow death. Amara sat there during their 15-minute break and listened. Gerald spoke first. Quiet, matter of fact. 9 years I've worked in this building. Mr. Lawson's never once looked me in the eye, not once. I could die on this floor and he'd step over my body to get to the elevator. Rosa nodded. Last month he had a janitor fired. Eddie, remember Eddie? His cleaning cart blocked Lawson's parking spot for maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes! The next morning, Eddie got the call. Denise stared at her hands. 14 complaints filed with HR in the last 5 years, all from people of color. You know how many led to action? Amara waited. 0. The microwave buzzed behind them. The fluorescent light flickered. Amara said nothing, but beneath the table her hand was already on her phone. She opened the Notes app and typed 1 line. 14 complaints, 0 action. They went back to work. 8th floor, 10th floor, 12th. The building emptied out as the evening wore on. By 8:30, the hallways were silent except for the hum of the HVAC system and the wet slap of Amara's mop against tile. Then the elevator dinged. Denise froze. She was 2 hallways over, but she heard it. She looked at Amara and mouthed 1 word. Lawson. 8:47 p.m. Craig Lawson stepped out of the elevator into the ground floor lobby. He was on his phone, 1 hand in his pocket, laptop bag over his shoulder. He'd left something in his office. Irritated. In a hurry. The lobby was still wet. Amara was halfway through mopping it. The pine sol was sharp in the air. That chemical clean smell that sticks to your clothes for hours. Craig walked straight in, didn't pause, didn't look for the wet floor sign. His Italian loafers hit the marble and left long brown prints across the section Amara had just finished. He glanced at her, the way you glance at a parking meter. Then he covered his phone and said, "You missed a spot by the door, and next time move when you see someone coming." Amara gripped the mop. "Yes, sir." He walked on. The elevator swallowed him. Gone. Denise appeared behind Amara like a shadow. Her jaw was clenched so tight, the muscles in her neck stood out. That's every night, she whispered. Every single night. Amara looked down at the shoe prints across her clean floor. She didn't say a word. She just started mopping again. But she wasn't mopping because he told her to. She was waiting. 23 minutes later, 14th floor, executive hallway. The carpet up here was different. Thick, charcoal gray, the kind that absorbs sound so you can hear your own heartbeat. The walls were lined with framed photos of Craig shaking hands with mayors, governors, developers. In every photo, he was smiling. In every photo, the people around him were white. Amara was mopping the tile section near the elevator bank. Gerald was vacuuming 2 doors down. The hallway was silent. Then the corner office door swung open. Craig stepped out, laptop bag on his shoulder, travel mug in his right hand. He was off the phone now. His face was tight. He'd just read an email from Trent Holloway saying Crestline Capital wanted one more due diligence call before wiring the money. It annoyed him. He didn't like being made to wait. He saw Amara, the same woman, same gray uniform, same mop. He stopped walking. Are you following me around this building? Amara kept her eyes low. No, sir. Just working my way through the floors. I already told you once tonight to stay out of the way. I'm sorry, sir, I'll move. But she didn't move fast enough. Or maybe she moved exactly fast enough and it didn't matter. Because Craig Lawson wasn't angry about a mop or a hallway. He was angry about an email, about a deal that wasn't closed yet, about a world that wasn't bending to his schedule. And she was the nearest target. He stepped toward her, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. You people, I swear, you get one job, one simple job, and you still can't do it without getting in someone's way. Amara said nothing. Look at me when I'm talking to you. She looked up. Their eyes met. His was cold. Hers were calm. Then he tilted his travel mug, slowly, deliberately, and poured the coffee onto the floor. It splashed across the tile and onto Amara's forearm. Hot. Not boiling, but hot enough to make the skin flush red in seconds. There. Now you've got something to actually do. He turned his back and walked to the elevator, pressed the button. The doors opened. He stepped inside without looking back. The doors closed. Silence. Gerald had stopped vacuuming. He stood frozen at the far end of the hallway, eyes wide. Amara looked down at her arm. The skin was already turning red. Small coffee droplets still clung to the sleeve of her uniform. The smell of dark roast mixed with the sharp sting of a fresh burn. Denise came running. She'd heard everything from the stairwell. Are you okay? Let me get the first aid kit. I'm calling this in. No. Amara's voice was steady. Not loud, not shaking, just steady. Not yet. She looked up. Above them, mounted in the ceiling corner, a small black dome. The security camera. Its tiny red light pulsed like a heartbeat. Amara pulled a phone from her uniform pocket. She took one photo of her forearm, the redness already deepening. Then she took one photo of the camera. She typed a text to Simone Reed. One word. Confirmed. Then she put the phone away, picked up the mop, and cleaned the coffee off the floor. Not because he told her to, because every second of it was on camera, and she wanted the footage to show exactly who she was, and exactly who he was. Thursday morning, 8:15 a.m., Atlanta. Amara sat in her corner office at Crestline Capital. The sun hit the glass desk the same way it did every morning. The skyline below was bright and clean. Everything looked the same as it did 3 days ago. But nothing was the same. She wore a tailored charcoal blazer, gold earrings. Her hair was down. On her left forearm, a white bandage covered the burn. First degree, documented at an urgent care clinic at 6 a.m. that morning. The medical report listed the cause as contact with hot liquid, workplace incident. She had the receipt, the photos, and the doctor's signature. Simone walked in carrying the Ridgemont file. She set it on the desk and looked at the bandage. How bad? Bad enough to matter. And the footage? Ridgemont's security system is covered under our due diligence access agreement. We have legal right to request any facility recordings within the audit window. Simone sat down. She already knew what was coming, but she asked anyway. So what's the play? Amara didn't blink. Pull the deal, all of it. 200 million, off the table. The wire is scheduled for tomorrow, Friday. Then we have exactly 28 hours to make sure Craig Lawson understands what he just lost. And why? Simone nodded. No argument. She picked up the file and walked out. Amara turned her chair toward the window. She looked down at the city below, all those tiny cars, tiny people, and pressed her thumb gently against the bandage on her arm. It stung. She let it. She wanted to remember exactly how it felt. 600 miles away, Craig Lawson was having the best Thursday of his life. He'd booked a private dining room at a steakhouse in Charlotte's Uptown district. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs. A $70 bottle of wine is already breathing on the table. He'd invited his entire executive team. Trent Holloway, the head of development, the VP of operations, the legal counsel. 8 people, 8 steaks, 1 celebration. The money wasn't even in the account yet, but in Craig's mind, it already was. By Monday, Craig said, lifting his glass, Crestline's 200 million hits our books. That means the South End project is back on track, our debt gets restructured, and we start talking about the next phase. I'm thinking about a new company jet, something that says, "We've arrived." Trent Holloway forced a smile from the other end of the table. He hadn't slept well. Something about that email from Crestline's legal team yesterday, the one asking for additional workplace culture documentation, sat in his chest like a stone. Craig, Trent said carefully, Crestline's final due diligence call still hasn't been confirmed. Don't you think we should— Trent, Craig set his glass down. They're institutional money. You know what that means? It means they don't walk away from a deal this size over paperwork. Relax. A server approached the table. Young black woman, neat uniform. She leaned in to refill Craig's water glass and her wrist accidentally brushed against his forearm. Craig jerked his hand back. His face tightened. Without a word, he picked up his napkin and wiped the spot on his sleeve where her skin had touched his. The server froze. Her hand trembled slightly around the water pitcher. Just leave the pitcher, Craig said, not looking at her. We'll handle it ourselves. She set the pitcher down and walked away fast. Trent watched her go. His jaw moved like he wanted to say something. He didn't. Nobody did. Back in Atlanta, Amara wasn't celebrating. She was building a case. Simone had pulled Ridgemont's full HR records. Documents Ridgemont had voluntarily handed over as part of the due diligence package. What they found made the coffee incident look like a greeting card. 14 formal complaints from cleaning and maintenance staff over the last 5 years. Every single one filed by a person of color. Every single one resolved with no disciplinary action. 3 employees, all black, were terminated within weeks of filing their complaints. Official reason in each case? Performance issues. Amara read through them one by one. A woman named Gladys Turner, 58 years old, grandmother of 4. She'd reported that Craig made her re-clean his private bathroom 3 times in one night because, and this was his exact phrasing recorded in the complaint, "It still smells like the help." She was fired 2 weeks later. A man named Willie Franklin, 44. He filed a complaint after Craig called his work the kind of quality you'd expect from the projects. Terminated. Performance issues. A 26-year-old named Keisha Moore. She reported that Craig told her she should smile more. At least give us something nice to look at while you're pushing that cart around. She was gone in 10 days. Amara closed the file. Her hands were flat on the desk. Her breathing was slow and measured. But her eyes were burning. She picked up the phone and called Lorraine Davis, civil rights attorney, Charlotte-based. 13 years of employment discrimination litigation. Sharp, fearless, and very expensive. Lorraine, I'm going to send you a file. 14 complaints, 3 retaliatory terminations, and security footage of a CEO committing assault on a service worker. The service worker was me. Silence on the line. Then, Send everything. That afternoon, Trent Holloway sat alone in his office at Ridgemont. The door was closed. His computer screen glowed blue. He'd typed 3 words into Google. Crestline Capital Partner. Amara Walker's bio loaded. Howard University, Harvard MBA, Forbes feature, $380 million in personal net worth, and her photo. Trent stared at it. He tilted his head. Something in the back of his brain fired, a signal too faint to grab, too strong to ignore. He'd never met her. He knew that. But something about her face. He closed the tab, rubbed his eyes, shook it off. But his hands were cold, and they stayed cold for the rest of the day. Thursday night, 11:48 p.m. Craig sat in his home office, a glass of bourbon on the desk. He opened his email and typed a message to Crestline Capital's general inbox. Subject line, "Looking forward to Friday." The body of the email was 3 lines, confident, casual. He signed off with a champagne glass emoji. In Atlanta, Amara's phone buzzed. She read the email in bed. The glow of the screen lit up her face in the dark. She didn't respond. She set the phone face down on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be the last day of Craig Lawson's career. He just didn't know it yet. 1 hour later, Denise Harmon called. Her voice was low, the kind of low people use when they're afraid of being heard through walls. "After you left last night, he came back down and found the crew in the hallway. Lined them up. Said we were, and I quote, the most useless bunch of people he'd ever had the misfortune of paying. Then he cut Gerald's hours. Said Gerald left a vacuum in the hallway, and that was grounds for review." Amara closed her eyes. "Gerald's been there 9 years, Amara. 9 years. He's got a daughter in nursing school. He can't afford to lose those hours." "He won't." Amara's voice was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that carries weight. "None of you will. I promise." She hung up, opened her notes app. Below the line, 14 complaints. 0 action. She added 1 more. Gerald. Hours cut. Retaliation. Thursday night. Then she set the phone down and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Friday morning, 10 a.m. Charlotte. Craig Lawson stood at the head of the Ridgemont boardroom like a man who'd already won. His best navy suit, a fresh haircut, cufflinks polished so bright they caught the overhead lights and threw tiny sparks across the mahogany table. The full executive team was there. 8 men, 8 suits. Trent Holloway sat closest to the door, not by accident. Neil Ashford, the board chairman, sat at the opposite end, reading glasses low on his nose, arms folded. A large screen on the far wall displayed the Crestline Capital logo and a single line. Final closing call, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Craig adjusted his tie. "Gentlemen, by noon today, $200 million will be in our account. Let's make this quick and clean." He clicked the call link. The screen went blue. A loading circle spun. 5 seconds, 10, 15. Then the feed connected. A woman appeared. Navy suit, gold earrings, hair down, sitting behind a glass desk with the Atlanta skyline stretched out behind her. And on her left forearm, a white bandage. Craig smiled, wide, practiced. "Good morning. Craig Lawson, CEO of Ridgemont Properties. It's a pleasure to finally put a face to the name. Good morning. I'm Amara Walker, managing partner of Crestline Capital Group." Craig nodded. "Well, Ms. Walker, we're thrilled to be closing this chapter. My team and I—" "Before we discuss the status of this investment," Amara said, "I want to share something with your team." The smile flickered, just a fraction. "Of course, go ahead." "I'm going to share my screen now." The Crestline logo disappeared. In its place, grainy security footage, a hallway, charcoal gray carpet, a timestamp in the bottom corner, Wednesday, 9:10 p.m. A woman in a gray cleaning uniform was mopping near an elevator bank. A man in a suit stepped out of a corner office, walked toward her, stopped, leaned in close. The audio was faint but clear enough. Every word landed in the boardroom like a stone dropped into still water. You people, I swear, you get one job, one simple job, and you still can't do it without getting in someone's way. Then the man tilted his coffee mug. The liquid splashed onto the woman's arm. 5 words followed. Clean that up. That's what you're here for. He walked away. The woman stood alone, coffee dripping down her forearm. The camera kept rolling. She didn't move for 6 seconds. The boardroom went dead. Not a breath, not a creak. 8 men sat frozen like someone had pressed pause on reality. Trent Holloway's face went white. His pen slipped from his fingers, rolled to the edge of the table, and fell to the floor. Nobody picked it up. Neil Ashford removed his reading glasses, slowly, folded them, placed them on the table with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than anything else in the room. Then he looked at Craig. Craig stared at the screen. His smile was gone, erased. His eyes moved back and forth between the frozen footage and the woman on the video call. The uniform, the mop, the bandage on her arm. Something was connecting, slowly, like a fuse burning toward powder. Amara let the silence sit. 5 seconds, 10, 15. She wanted every man in that room to feel the full weight of what they were looking at. Then she spoke. The woman in that footage is me. Craig's chair creaked as his body shifted backward. Involuntary, like something had hit him in the chest. I was on your cleaning crew Wednesday night, Mr. Lawson. I do this before every major investment. I visit the company to see how its leadership treats the people they think don't matter. She paused. You poured hot coffee on my arm. You told me to get on my knees and clean it up. You called me an animal, and you walked away without a second thought. Craig's lips moved. No sound came out. The woman he'd humiliated. The woman holding his future. The same woman. Effective immediately, Crestline Capital is withdrawing its $200 million investment in Ridgemont Properties. The wire will not be sent today. It will not be sent ever. Craig found his voice. Cracked, thin, stripped of every ounce of polish he'd walked in with. Ms. Walker, Amara, let's not be hasty. It was a misunderstanding. I didn't know. You didn't know I was someone who mattered. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. That's exactly the problem. Please. The word came out before he could stop it. The CEO of Ridgemont Properties, begging, in front of his entire executive team. Let me fix this. I'll apologize personally to every member of the cleaning staff. We can restructure, whatever you need. Mr. Lawson. Amara leaned forward, just slightly, just enough that her face filled the screen. Let me be clear. I'm not negotiating. I'm not asking for an apology, and I'm not giving you a second chance. Craig opened his mouth again. Your own HR records show 14 formal complaints from employees of color, 3 retaliatory terminations, 0 disciplinary action, in 5 years. Each number landed like a verdict. You didn't make a mistake on Wednesday night. You did what you've always done. The only difference is that this time, the person you did it to has the power to hold you accountable. She straightened, hands folded, voice steady as a flat line. This call is over. The screen went black. The boardroom lights suddenly felt too harsh. The air felt too thin. The silence was so thick you could hear the ventilation system humming 3 floors below. Craig sat frozen, both hands flat on the table. His cufflinks, the ones that had thrown sparks across the room 15 minutes ago, now just looked like pieces of metal on a man who had nothing left to shine for. A thin line of sweat ran from his temple to his jaw. He didn't wipe it. Trent Holloway stared at the blank screen. He didn't look at Craig. He couldn't, because looking at Craig meant acknowledging he had stood next to this man for 6 years and said nothing. Nobody spoke. Nobody stood. The coffee and pastries on the side table sat untouched, perfectly arranged props from a party that never happened. Neil Ashford folded his hands and said one sentence. What have you done? Craig didn't answer. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. No charm, no spin, no borrowed authority. Just a man in a suit that suddenly didn't fit, in a chair he no longer deserved, in a room full of people who would never look at him the same way again. Nobody moved for 11 seconds. Amara's face was gone from the screen, but her words were still in the room, hanging in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Then Neil Ashford stood up. "Everyone out, except Craig and Trent." The other executives didn't need to be told twice. Chairs scraped, doors opened and closed. Footsteps disappeared down the hallway. In 15 seconds, the boardroom went from 8 people to 3. Neil walked to the head of the table. He stood directly in front of Craig, close enough that Craig had to look up. "Tell me she's lying." Craig swallowed. His hands were still flat on the table. His fingertips were white. "Neil, she's exaggerating. It was an accident. The coffee slipped. I didn't know who she was." "I didn't ask who she was. I asked if you poured hot coffee on a cleaning woman and told her to clean it up." Silence. "Craig, it wasn't like that." Trent Holloway spoke from across the room. His voice was flat, dead. "Craig, it's on camera." Craig turned on him, fast. "Don't you start! Don't you dare!" "That was $200 million. Neil's voice cut through the room like a blade on glass. "That was our only lifeline. The South End project is $84 million in debt. Our banking partners have 0 patients left, and you just lost us the only capital injection that could save this company because you couldn't treat a cleaning woman like a human being." Craig stood up. His chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "I built this company, Neil. I sat in this chair for 10 years and—" "Your father-in-law built this company." Neil's voice didn't rise, it dropped. "You're burning it down." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling an emergency board session. Today, 3 o'clock. Craig's face shifted. The arrogance cracked. Underneath it, fear. Real fear. "Neil, come on, let's talk about this. I can fix it. I'll call her. I'll fly to Atlanta. You'll sit in your office and you will not make a single phone call until the board decides what to do with you. That's what you'll do." Neil walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded louder than a slam. At 3 p.m., the board met. 8 members. The vote was 6-2. Craig Lawson was placed on immediate administrative leave pending a full internal investigation. His access badge was deactivated. His email was locked. Security escorted him to his office to collect personal items under supervision. He carried 1 box to his car. A framed photo of himself shaking hands with the governor sat on top. Nobody walked him out. Nobody shook his hand. By 4:30 p.m., Craig was on the phone with his PR firm. He wanted to get ahead of the story. "Frame it as a stunt," he told them. "An investor playing games, corporate espionage. Say Crestline was looking for an excuse to kill the deal." His publicist listened. Then she asked one question. "Is there security footage?" Craig didn't answer. "Craig, is there footage?" It could be taken out of context. "Then we can't spin it. If that footage goes public, no narrative in the world saves you." She was right. By 5:15 p.m., someone inside the boardroom had already made a call. A reporter from the Charlotte Observer had Ridgemont's main number on her screen and was dialing. In Atlanta, Amara was already 3 moves ahead. She called Lorraine Davis at 4 p.m. The civil rights attorney had spent the afternoon reviewing everything. The HR records, the security footage, the 3 termination files, and Amara's medical report from the urgent care clinic. "I'm filing with the EEOC on Monday morning," Lorraine said, "on behalf of the 3 terminated employees. Racial discrimination and retaliatory termination. The footage and the HR records are the backbone." "What about the other 11 complaints?" "I'm reaching out to every one of them. If even half agree to join, this becomes a class action." At 6 p.m., Amara made one more call. Denise Harmon. The phone rang twice. Denise picked up. Her voice was shaking before she even said hello. "I heard. The whole building heard. Is it true? Did you really?" "It's true. The deal is dead, and Craig Lawson is finished." Denise went quiet. Amara could hear her breathing. Uneven, heavy, the kind of breathing that comes right before tears. "Denise, listen to me. You and your team, Gerald, Rosa, everyone. You're going to be okay. What he did to your people is going to be answered for. I promise you that. Denise's voice cracked. 11 years, Amara. 11 years I watched him treat us like we were nothing. And nobody ever... She couldn't finish. Amara waited. She didn't rush her. She didn't fill the silence with words. She just let Denise cry. Because some silences need to be held, not broken. The Charlotte Observer broke the story Saturday morning at 6 a.m. The headline hit like a freight train. CEO poured hot coffee on cleaning worker. She was the $200 million investor. By 7 a.m., the article had 10,000 shares. By noon, it had 200,000. By Sunday evening, it had crossed 4 million. The security footage was embedded at the top of the article. 38 seconds of grainy hallway camera. No music, no edits. Just a man in a suit pouring coffee on a woman in a cleaning uniform and walking away. 38 seconds. That's all it took. The clip jumped from the Observer to Twitter, Twitter to Instagram, Instagram to TikTok. Someone set it to slow motion with a single caption, "He didn't know." That version alone got 11 million views in 48 hours. The image of Craig walking away, coffee still dripping down Amara's forearm, became a symbol. It showed up on protest signs, on T-shirts, on the covers of 3 national magazines within 2 weeks. A muralist in Atlanta painted it on the side of a building in Old Fourth Ward. 20 feet tall, impossible to miss. Craig Lawson's face was everywhere, and not in the way he'd always imagined. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Lorraine Davis walked into the EEOC's Charlotte office and filed a formal complaint on behalf of 3 former Ridgemont Properties employees, Gladys Turner, Willie Franklin, and Keisha Moore. Racial discrimination, retaliatory termination, pattern of hostile workplace conduct by executive leadership. The filing was 46 pages long. It included the 14 HR complaints, the 3 termination records, internal emails showing the complaints were flagged and ignored, and the security footage, which Crestline's legal team had formally requested and received under the due diligence agreement. The EEOC opened an investigation the same day. By Wednesday, the 3 fired employees had gone public. Lorraine held a press conference on the steps of the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Gladys Turner stood at the microphone. She was 58 years old, gray hair pulled back tight, a floral blouse buttoned to the collar. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. "I cleaned that man's office for 6 years. I cleaned his bathroom. I cleaned his floors. And one night, he made me do his private bathroom 3 times. 3 times. Because, and these are his words, it still smells like the help." She paused, looked straight into the cameras. 2 weeks later, I was fired. They said it was a performance, but you and I both know what it was. The clip went viral, another 30 million views. Gladys Turner became a household name overnight. Behind the scenes, the damage was spreading faster than Craig's PR team could contain. Ridgemont's 2 largest joint venture partners, a pension fund out of Virginia and a regional bank in the Carolinas, pulled out of the South End project within 72 hours of the story breaking. No phone calls, no negotiations, just letters from their legal departments with one word repeated in every paragraph: liability. Ridgemont's corporate credit rating was downgraded from BBB to BB-. Their insurance carrier sent a formal notice that coverage for the pending complaints may be denied. The reason listed, willful and malicious conduct by executive leadership. The board moved fast. Emergency session, Thursday, unanimous this time. Craig Lawson was terminated, not resigned, not stepped down to pursue other opportunities, terminated for cause. His severance package, $4.2 million, was voided under the morality clause buried in Section 11C of his employment contract. A clause Craig himself had probably never read. He left the building the same way he came in 10 years ago, through the front door. But this time, no one was holding it open. Craig hired a crisis PR firm out of New York. They booked him on a local Charlotte news affiliate for a sit-down interview. Controlled environment, soft lighting, friendly anchor. The plan was simple. Show remorse, take responsibility, signal a new beginning. It went wrong in 90 seconds. The anchor, a veteran journalist named Catherine Hale, asked 7 questions. Craig handled the first 6 with rehearsed answers. Then she asked the 8th. Mr. Lawson, did you know the woman you poured coffee on was black when you did it? Craig hesitated. Not long, maybe 2 seconds. But on live television, 2 seconds is a canyon. I don't see color. I treat everyone the same. Catherine Hale didn't blink. The EEOC filing contains 14 complaints, all from employees of color. Do you still treat everyone the same? Craig's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The camera held on his face for 5 full seconds. 5 seconds of a man with no answer and nowhere to hide. The clip went viral for a second time. The internet was not kind. The legal walls closed in from every direction. Lorraine Davis expanded the EEOC complaint into a full class action lawsuit. 6 former employees joined: Gladys Turner, Willie Franklin, Keisha Moore, and 3 others who came forward after the press conference. The suit alleged systemic racial discrimination, retaliatory termination, hostile work environment, and failure of corporate governance. The case never went to trial. Ridgemont Properties, now under interim leadership appointed by Neil Ashford, settled for $12.5 million. The 3 fired employees were offered reinstatement with full back pay. Willie Franklin and Keisha Moore accepted. Gladys Turner did not. She took her share of the settlement and started her own cleaning business. She called it Turner and Grace Cleaning Company, named after herself and her youngest granddaughter. Within a year, she had 16 employees and 3 commercial contracts. Amara filed a separate civil suit against Craig personally. Assault. The hot coffee had caused a first-degree burn, documented, photographed, and entered into evidence along with the security footage. The case settled quietly. The amount was sealed, but courthouse reporters estimated it in the low 7 figures. Craig was also barred from serving as an officer or director of any Ridgemont subsidiary for 10 years. His name was removed from every piece of company letterhead, every plaque in the lobby, and every framed photo on the 14th floor. 3 weeks after the settlement, Amara held a press conference of her own. Not at a courthouse, at a community center in Charlotte's West End, a neighborhood 15 minutes from the Ridgemont Tower, but a world apart. She announced the creation of the Walker Foundation for Workplace Dignity. $5 million of her own money. The foundation would provide free legal aid to service workers facing workplace discrimination and fund job training programs across the Carolinas. She also announced that Crestline Capital had redirected the $200 million to Pinnacle Development Group, a competing firm in Charlotte led by a diverse leadership team. The South End project would be completed. Jobs would be created. But this time, under people who understood that the janitor mopping the lobby deserved the same respect as the CEO walking through it. Amara stood at the podium. No notes, no teleprompter. She looked out at the room. Community organizers, cleaning crew workers, journalists, and Denise Harmon in the second row, crying for the 3rd time that month. "I didn't pull that investment to make a point," Amara said. "I pulled it because I've seen what happens when power has no accountability. I've been mopping floors since I was 14 years old, and I learned something back then that I've never forgotten." She paused. "The way you treat the person holding the mop tells the world everything it needs to know about you." 18 months later, Amara Walker was on the cover of Forbes. The headline read, "The Investor Who Mops Floors." The article ran 6 pages. It told the full story: Baltimore, the law firm, her mother, the mop, the ritual. It detailed the Ridgemont deal, the coffee, the footage, the fallout. And it ended with a number that made every CEO in America pay attention. Since the Ridgemont story went public, Crestline Capital's portfolio had grown 30%. Not despite the scandal, because of it. Companies started cleaning house before they ever picked up the phone to pitch Amara Walker. Diversity audits, workplace culture reviews, new HR policies written from scratch. because word had spread across every boardroom in the country. If you wanted Crestline's money, you'd better treat your janitor the same way you'd treat your investor, because they might be the same person. Amara still did her undercover visits. Every single deal. Simone still sighed every time she booked them. And Amara still showed up in the uniform, mop in hand, eyes open. Some things don't change. Some things shouldn't. Denise Harmon didn't push a cleaning cart anymore. She sat behind a desk now, facilities director at Ridgemont Properties, reporting directly to the new CEO. She oversaw a staff of 40. One of the first things she did in her new role was gut that basement break room. Torn out the broken microwave, replaced the flickering light, put in a proper table, a coffee machine, a refrigerator, and a sign on the wall that read, "Every person in this building matters." She also implemented mandatory dignity and respect training for all executives, quarterly. No exceptions. The first session had 11 attendees and 0 complaints. Gerald got a formal written apology from the new CEO, hand-delivered, not emailed. He also got a raise, not a big one, but enough to cover his daughter's nursing school tuition without working double shifts. He still vacuumed the 14th floor every night, but now, when executives passed him in the hallway, they said good evening. Some of them even knew his name. Gerald said that was worth more than the money. Rosa transferred to the day shift. Better hours, better pay. She told Denise it was the first time in 4 years she got to eat dinner with her kids on a weeknight. Gladys Turner's cleaning company, Turner and Grace, landed its biggest contract yet, a 12-month deal with a hospital network in Charlotte. 22 employees now, a small office on West Boulevard, a framed newspaper clipping on the wall behind her desk, the one from the Charlotte Observer, the day she stood on the courthouse steps and told the world what Craig Lawson had done to her. Her granddaughter Grace, 9 years old, told her class at school that her grandmother was a CEO. She wasn't wrong. And Craig Lawson. He sold his Charlotte estate in a private sale, below market value. He relocated. No one was quite sure where. Some said Savannah, some said a small town outside Knoxville. It didn't matter. No company would hire him. No board would seat him. His name had become shorthand, a verb almost. Don't pull a Lawson. It meant, don't treat the person at the bottom like they're beneath you because you never know who's watching. The last public photo of Craig Lawson was taken by a paparazzo outside a Charlotte storage facility. He was loading boxes into the back of a rented SUV, alone. No suit, no cufflinks, no Italian loafers. Just a man with a box, squinting against the afternoon sun, looking like someone who still couldn't understand how it all went wrong. But everyone else understood. Everyone. That's the lesson. Not that the powerful always fall. They don't. Not that justice always wins. It doesn't. But that dignity, real dignity, isn't something you earn with a title or a net worth or a corner office. It's something every single person carries with them the moment they walk through the door. The only question is whether you're the kind of person who sees it, or the kind who pours coffee on it. So let me ask you, have you ever been treated like you were invisible? Like you didn't matter? Or have you ever watched it happen to someone else and wished you'd said something? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit you somewhere real, if it made you think about someone you know, someone you've been, or someone you never want to become, share it. Send it to somebody who needs to hear it. Like, subscribe, hit that bell. I'll see you in the next one.
38 seconds of footage. That's all it took. 1 cup of coffee, $200 million, a career, a reputation, gone. But here's the thing most people miss. Amara didn't pull that money because she was insulted. She pulled it because she remembered. She remembered being 14 on her knees watching her mother pick up a stranger's coffee cup off a floor she just mopped, without a word, without flinching, because that's what invincible people learn to do. $380 million later, Amara still grabs the mop, not to prove a point, but because she made a promise to herself a long time ago. She would never look away from the people the world tells you don't matter. Craig didn't lose everything because he mistreated an investor. He lost everything because he showed exactly who he was to someone who was actually paying attention. And that leaves us with a question that's harder than it sounds. If nobody's watching, if there's no camera, no footage, no consequence, who are you to the person holding the mob? Not who you think you are, not who you say you are, who you actually are. When it costs you nothing to be cruel and nobody would ever know. If this story made you feel something, share it, like, and subscribe. Hit that bell because dignity isn't given by the powerful, it's carried by everyone who walks through the door.